In this edition of Talk Fulton, Fulton's chairman gets down to business in his new role. We'll go one-on-one with longtime public servant Robb Pitts. He's right here in our studio to talk Fulton. So stay with us for our conversation with the chairman next. Fulton's new look of leadership has a familiar face. That's because Chairman Robb Pitts is no stranger to Fulton County government. Hi, everybody. I am Shania Chavis Rucker. 2018 brought with it a change for the Fulton County Commission in the way of two new commissioners. But yes, one of them has been here before, and now he is officially the chairman of the board. Chairman Robb Pitts, welcome to Talk Fulton, and welcome back to Fulton County.
It is great to be back.
It is great
to be back with you too.
Thank you, sir. We are so
love
excited.
FGTV.
Oh, we know you do. You've been a long time supporter.
I love it.
All right. So first things first. First on your plate, you had to jump right into the budget talks. Talk to us about this 2018 budget.
Well, first of all, the budget, as you know, is the first budget is made up and put together by the county manager, chief financial officer, and the chair of the board of commissioners.
Known as the Budget Commission.
Budget Commission, correct. I was not here, so the then vice chair, who was acting as chair at the time, Bob Ellis, sat in on that. So that's what's before us now. Since I've been here now, I'm trying to get my arms around it, because when we take it up, there's some exciting things in it that I'm proud of, and we're going to, I think, have a budget that we can live with, and it's going to address the needs of the people. For example, the hue and cry in 2017 dealt with property taxes.
That's
those huge increases that many of our citizens were faced with.
And the initial 2017 tax assessment notices that went out.
That's correct.
Right.
So we've come up with a plan that I think is a very workable plan. We can go into a lot of that detail if you'd like.
Yeah, let's talk. Save that, because I want to get into that whole conversation a little bit later in the show. But so this tax assessment thing on your radar.
That's huge.
Yes.
That's huge. It's going to take up a lot of time. So that, I think, is going to be the main thing and the main emphasis. There's some issues regarding the new city of South Fulton that will be dealt with. So those are the types of issues. There will be additional programs for seniors.
Okay, great.
And
because we heard from some seniors now.
We did. In fact, one of the things that struck me before approving the budget was the fact that seniors felt that they were being overlooked, that the board was putting more money into capital projects versus people projects. Right. So we addressed that issue as well. So I think overall it's a good budget, and I think that it's one that we're going to be able to people will live with.
And let me ask you this. We'll talk about the official transition for the city of South Fulton a little bit later in the program. But because of the new city of South Fulton, the budget looks differently, because you've got so many things that for instance, even Fulton Government Television, we had a cable franchise fee. And so a lot of the money that supported our organization now goes to the city of South Fulton. So there are some things that you all had to figure out how to do because of some of the revenue that's not coming in.
Well, you're right about that. But, I've been through several of these transitions before. Transitions meaning new city here, Sandy Springs, Milton, Johns Creek.
Yes.
And now the new city of South Fulton, not Renaissance anymore. New city. It's another story.
A whole nother show.
Another story for another day. But yeah, so essentially, when the people of South Fulton voted last year to become a city, that essentially took Fulton County government out of the business of providing city-like services.
Right, out of the municipal business.
Meaning fire, police, parks, recreation, zoning, all of those type services that Fulton County provided in the past will now, over time, be provided by the new city. We're transitioning some of those services to them. The two big ones, though, have yet to be decided. It's a work in progress. We're making progress, and the people in the new city need to be patient. These things take a little time. They don't happen overnight. In a classroom, you can say, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it by this day. But
Right.
when you start getting input, when you start looking at what's legal, what's not legal, how's this going to happen, how long is this going to take, where's
Right.
the money going to come from,
Right.
all of these things have to be flushed out.
And in fairness
that's
to
what we're in
you-
the process of doing, particularly with police and fire.
And in fairness to you, much like the Budget Commission, where you were not a part of that those conversations originally, even with this City of South Fulton transition, you weren't here, so you didn't have an opportunity to be a part of those conversations either until now.
Well, I wasn't here, but I was a participant because I attended most of the public meetings that
Okay.
took place prior to cityhood and after cityhood. So I'm very up to date on what the people there expect.
Well, let me ask you this. So you took what are we calling it? A 2-year hiatus? What do we call it?
I
How
call
long-
it a sabbatical.
You took a 2-year sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
So you're back in Fulton County. How
I'm
has-
back. I'm like James Brown. I'm back.
Well, Mr. James Brown, Chairman.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. How has the county changed since you left and now that you're back?
Well, I think I've seen some changes. I kept up with it. Obviously, I'm new commissioners. I'm serving for the first time with Ellis,
Morris.
and
Now Hall.
Arrington, and now Hall. Obviously, new Hall because she worked as the chief of staff to former Commissioner Joan Garner. Ellis, in fact, not Ellis, but Morris.
You guys go way back, right?
Yeah. In fact, when I was president of Atlanta City Council, Morris was my finance committee chair. So he and I have a history together, a history of working positively together. Ellis, I did not know him. So, and Arrington, didn't really know him, knew his dad. His dad and I served together. In
That's
fact,
right.
yeah, I was on the council with his dad for many, many years. And when he was president of council, before I became president of council, a lot of times he'd be busy, and Marvin would say, Rob, I have to go. I've got to be in court. You take over. So I was officially council president for 4 years.
Right.
But if you add up the times that then President Arrington called me up, it's a lot more than that.
It's a lot more than that. We are so excited.
And
So
that's
just-
on that point, though, because a lot of people don't understand what the chair of the Fulton County Commission does.
Right.
And
Well,
one
don't steal it yet. I'm going to
okay.
come back.
All right.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
We're going to have more with Chairman Robb Pitts when we come back. And yes, we'll talk about his thoughts a little bit more on those tax assessment notices for 2018 and not repeating the challenges of 2017. Stay with us, everybody. We're talking today to Fulton's chairman, Robb Pitts, who was sworn back into service just before 2017 ended. Mr. Chairman, before you left, we were just about to get into the conversation about, you said many folks don't even know what the chairman does.
That's true, and nor do they know what Fulton County government does. So let me try to answer both. There are 7 commissioners, 6 commissioners, and 1 chairman. What does the chairman do? First of all, the chairman has no more power or authority than the other 6. The one thing that the chairman does is to preside over the meetings, and I was uniquely qualified for that because I had served as president of Atlanta City Council, where I presided over that body. So presiding over a body is nothing new for me.
And hold on, because I've got to tell you, folks in the street and even in the Fulton County government building are already talking about how they have noticed your style of presiding over a meeting. It is really going like clockwork. Folks are paying attention.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that because a lot of the people, they knew me when I was president of City Council, and I'm sort of a no-nonsense guy when it comes to government, when it comes to running the meetings, and more importantly, when it comes to the public's money. But so that's the one difference. You also, as chairman, you automatically serve on certain boards like ARC by virtue of being chair. So that takes up a lot of time. And in essence, you become the face of the county. Not that you have any more power, but you become the face of the county. And that's important and significant here because of the 159 counties in the state of Georgia, Fulton County is the largest. And we therefore, in the metropolitan area, we become, we got Cobb, Gwinnett, Clayton, and DeKalb. Well, it's still Fulton County. We're the granddaddy. There are 15 cities within Fulton County, Atlanta being the largest and gets the most attention because it's the capital city. And I always ask this question, can anybody, it would take probably 100 people to be able to name all 15. And I won't put you on the spot
don't.
what the smallest one is. But the smallest one is, for the record, is a city called Mountain Park.
That's right.
It is right next to Roswell and has about 500 people. It has its own mayor, own city council president, fire chief, police chief, etc. Okay. So that's what the chairman does. Now, what are the duties of Fulton County? Well, what Fulton County does is determined by the state constitution of Georgia, and there are 4 specific issues and several administrative ones. Number 1, we're responsible for health and human services, senior programs, Grady Hospital, things of that nature. The criminal justice system, right. Sheriff, marshals, the courts, animal control, although the state constitution only addresses the issue of rabies control for the county. Through the years, we've expanded that to include everything dealing with animal control. And then, of course, the countywide library system. Right. Several other issues that I think are more of an administrative role. We conduct elections. And the biggie, again, which we talked about, sort of touch on, appraising property and collecting taxes.
So since we're there, let's park there for just a second.
Okay.
And you were not a commissioner at the time. You were on your sabbatical.
Correct.
And you saw what was happening with the outrage of residents who, in some cases, there were some 100% increases. Some say they even saw 200%. And you say that there's a fix in store, at least the conversation for the fix in store now. What can you tell residents about that in terms of what does the fix kind of sort of look like? Okay.
Well, again, I was not here when this decision was made to go back to the so-called freeze and use the 2016 values, because even on the outside, I knew that was a questionable move. Now, I don't want to get into all of that, because it's not behind us. So based upon that, we had sort of got a reprieve, and I don't think that issue is resolved yet, so I don't want to scare anybody, but that's, our digest still has not been approved, and now we're in another tax year. So, but what we're doing specifically to sort of prevent what happened from happening again, or at least to minimize it, 3 or 4 things. Number 1, we're going to hire more appraisers. Number 2, we're going to provide more training for the appraisers. Number 3, we're going to provide more technology. In fact, there's $3.5 million in the 2018 budget for technology. And more importantly, which is probably going to fall upon you, we're going to have to really communicate to the taxpayers what the process is, why we're doing what we're doing, and what's required. Because I will say this, nobody can deny that property values have not gone up in Fulton County, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. Now, I use the number of approximately 330,000 residential properties in Fulton County. Did the appraisers get them all right? Of course not, with that many. They made some mistakes. However, a process was in place and is in place. If you disagree, that you go through the appeals process. Now, we're looking at that as well. But so I think that if we implement those things, and the big piece of that is going to be the communications piece. Right. Letting citizens know what the process is. There's going to be a lot online. We're going to be utilizing you and FGTV. So that's why I say you're going to have a big role. You're going to call upon all of your knowledge and experience to communicate this in layman's terms.
Yes, understood. Being voluntold. Understood.
All right.
We'll absolutely make sure that happens. And I've got less than a minute to go before we toss to break, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the other agenda items for you. But kudos to the tax commissioner for let me tell you something, collecting what he did.
Dr. Ferdinand has been criticized through the years, but I'm telling you, when you need your money collected, he's the guy. He does his job. He doesn't hurt people in spite of what you may hear. He does his job, and he does a superb job. But for him, we would have had serious problems. But he did an outstanding job. And thank you for bringing that up.
No problem. Chairman, stick with me. When we come back, we'll hear what else is on that agenda for Fulton's new chairman. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back. We've been talking with Fulton's Chairman Robb Pitts about his agenda for 2018. Sir, you told us a little bit about the role of the chairman and the role of the county, but talk to us specifically about your agenda and what you are also trying to get done in addition to the tax assessment process that we already discussed.
Well, the other big issue that caused a lot of problems, elections,
Yes.
voter registration and elections. And people don't understand why it takes Fulton County much longer than it takes surrounding counties to report the results of their elections. And we're aware of that. We're addressing that issue not only locally, meeting with our director, but also meeting with the state representatives as
Secretary of
well,
State's office, right.
and the legislators who represent Fulton County in particular. One simple thing that may help us is that because right now we can't count absentee ballots until after the polls close on election day, which is 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. And the legislation that is, one piece of legislation that is before the General Assembly now is to allow us to begin to count absentee ballots as soon as the polls open at 7 a.m. in the morning. That will go a long ways.
Yes, people.
You also got to realize, though, when we do it, we're the largest county, so we have many more votes to count. But there are issues. Another issue with respect to the number of people that we hire, the quality that people are concerned. Well, some of the people, don't seem to know what they're doing. Well, we're addressing that as well. So I think that what people will see going forward is that the process is going to be a lot better. And we're also talking about, we'll be talking about what's called voting centers, which will allow people, just as with early voting, no matter where you live, you can vote at several of these centers around rather than having to go to a precinct. That's a big problem.
Always get that a little confused because we implemented that whole early voting. You came back to Fulton County right in the middle of the major transportation conversation. Talk to us about that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I should have mentioned that earlier. That is probably, a huge issue for us. We live in a great city, but every great city, we think that our traffic is the worst in the world because if you get stuck in it, you're stuck in it. But most other major cities have the same problems that we have. We're probably, in the, I'd say top 5 or 6 in terms of the worst. But the good news is our citizens have recognized that, and they've said to us, we're going to give you the money to fix this transportation problem, and that's a great thing for us. So we're in the process now of deciding what projects we're going to complete. And so, because it doesn't matter how great a city you live in, if you can't get from point A to point B within a reasonable period of time, we have a problem. We recognize that, our citizens recognize that, and they are providing us with the funds to begin to address the problem.
And the residents are really, they're really giving you feedback.
And they are. In fact, we're having 4 or 5 meetings, correct, and we're getting great feedback from the public, and we need that, and we want that.
And we have a survey online that they can take?
That's correct, that's correct. So everything is on the table. People talk about, well, we need more heavy rail, and we may need that, but everything's on the table. But the heavy rail, though, that's the most expensive and takes the longest period of time. We're looking at something called BRTs, or bus rapid transit. They have stations, they have dedicated lanes, and I think people are going to fall in love with that. That's something that we're really pursuing. And one of my pet projects is you got to be futuristic. You got to think. I hate that expression about thinking outside of the box, because it's really not outside the box anymore. It's here. Autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles.
I've heard you talking about this.
I think that Atlanta and Fulton County and the state of Georgia, we can be the leader in the world with respect to the use and promotion and the development of self-driving vehicles. We got Georgia Tech right next door, and they're working with us. So you have companies that are moving here now who are in the process of developing. There's one company that's already they already have a pilot program on our street. So I think that given the resources, given the vocal support, and me being the face of the county pushing this forward, that's a great role for us to play.
One of almost immediately after you were sworn back in, you've had over the years great relationships, but you had quite a bit of positive feedback about you saying that you were looking forward to starting a new relationship with our capital city's new mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. Why is that so important, sir?
Well, because, so goes Atlanta, really, because it's the capital city. Again, only one of 15 cities within Fulton County, but when people think about Georgia, they think about Atlanta. And we, no disrespect to them when I say that it's only one, but we have to work together. Not only the mayor of the city of Atlanta and the chairman of the Fulton County Commission, but also the leadership at the state level. So we're meeting, though, in order to make sure that we're all in this together. We have scheduled meetings with the other mayors in the in Fulton County.
The BOC mayors meetings.
Correct, but also you may remember when I was here before, I had a meeting with the other heads of the county commissions, which I'm going to revive. So not only will we have input and get to know what the other mayors are doing, but also what the other leaders of the other counties are doing as well. So I'm excited about this role. One other thing, when you asked about what are you looking at, well, our jail.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we were under a consent decree for many years. We're not under that anymore. And what that said was that we had to keep our jail population under 2,500.
That's right.
And we've been, since I've been gone, and actually before I left my sabbatical, we were sort of in compliance. Right. And so that restriction was removed. So we're right around that number. But I think we can reduce it even further. And if you reduce it even further, that means that frees up money for other things.
That's right.
The issue ought to be providing funds and programs and services to people before they go to jail. And we can do that much cheaper than we can keeping them in jail. That figure of $70+ per day to house an inmate, that's real. So if we can reduce that population, that's a good thing. And one of the efforts, actually there are two. One of the things that I'm proud of the former council of Atlanta when they passed the legislation regarding, small amounts of marijuana, then that's a good thing, and I'm hoping that the other cities will adopt that as well. One of my initiatives now, though, is to, with respect to bonds for people who are not able to pay that languish in our jail for days, weeks, and even months, but simply because they come up with $50 or $100. And you contrast that with someone who has means, they can pay their fine, get a bond, and they're out in a matter of hours or a day, whereas others will have to be there for, like I say, days, weeks, and even months at a time. So that's something that I'm working on, and you're going to see and hear a lot more about that.
Well,
and if we do that, because they're about...
Wait, let me stop you.
Okay.
Because it sounds like to me, folks, that the chairman needs his own show, because we are out of time, and you're going to get your own show with the chairman's circle, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Why is it important for you to be able to communicate with
Well, because you think, there are issues, there are people in our community that people need to know about, not the ones that you always hear about, but people who are making a difference, making a contribution in our community. Last night, for example, I was with on a panel with the Black MBA Association of Atlanta. And there's so much talent in that room. I was there with City Council President Moore and Jason Estevez from the Atlanta Public Schools. So people like that we need to get involved, because it's not just Fulton County and the city of Atlanta, but it's individuals in the private sector with talent who want to get involved. They just haven't had an opportunity. So me being the face, me being out in the community, we're going to make sure that they have an opportunity.
And we have those
We get to hear from them, that's correct. And thanks to you and FGTV, and we're ready to go.
Well, we are
ready
so
to rock
excited.
and roll.
Sir, again, welcome back. Happy to have you, and you will be seeing a lot more of them. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back. We want to thank Chairman Robb Pitts for joining us today, but you can stay in touch with him at any time. You can reach him in his office via email or phone, and you can stay connected with him online on both Twitter and Facebook. And you can let us know what topics you want covered right here on Talk Fulton, and of course connect with us as well on Twitter and on Facebook. Well, that's our time. Thank you so much for yours. We'll see you next time where we will Talk Fulton.